I see Jamie. Okay, we'll begin our town hall meeting in the next 5 minutes, so please grab a seat. Thank you.
Morning, Hank. How are you?
Okay, please, if you would, grab a seat so we can start our town hall meeting. Thank you. All right, for those that would like to consider an option, Bill Van is holding a town hall out by the coffee. So, but I'm told the coffee is now empty, so Lanny, stay still. All right, we'll get started. Pastor David is in with the confirmation or first communion class or one of those groups, so he is certainly doing God's work. That's why he's not with us today. But we have, I think, most of our council members who have joined us, Hank, Lanny, Dan, Pat, Jamie. Who else am I missing? So, a good representation from council. And thank you. In the absence of Pastor David, I'll do my best to open our discussion, and Rick Hunnicky, with a prayer. So let us pray. Dear Lord, we thank you for the blessing of this fellowship and the opportunity to talk, to listen, and to understand, to further try to accomplish your work, achieve the mission of St. Michael, and support the people from our church family. We do all these things to try to make St. Michael a more perfect place to gather, to worship, and to serve. We offer up this prayer in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ, Lord and Savior. Amen. So I've said on occasion that your voice matters, and we want to hear it. So again, very thankful that so many people are able to join us. The state of our church, I think, is incredibly solid right now. As I reflect back on the recent year, we almost completely rebuilt our church, thanks to the work of the Building and Property Committee. We had a very successful stewardship campaign, thanks to the stewardship team, led by Joe Martin. We started a conversation with regard to our LGBTQ plus brothers and sisters. And even today, we announced not only having Mario Cast as our office manager, but our new youth director. So St. Michael has a great trajectory going. And just to reflect a little further before I ask for your comments, questions, ideas, concerns, just to take a look at the announcements. Yeah, okay. Just to reflect on the announcements, which we see every week and they sort of wash over us, right? But thinking about before COVID, many of us can think back that far, and how rock solid this church, this congregation was at that point in time. Reflecting even today, thinking about the new activities and ministries that we have at St. Michael, forgive me, but I'll just rip through this quickly and tell you what's new. We welcome Ben and Kathleen today as new members. We had Pastor Noah give us a very informative lecture on his life's journey. We've started these Taizé worship services, pizza and prayer, pancake breakfast to welcome Mario. Faith and Foam is new. Lunch Bunch is a rekindling of 60-plussers. Women's Bible study, thank you, Jamie, is new since COVID. These town halls are new. Adult application class, our Luther House service project, Jazz Vespers, just in this announcement alone. All these things are things we did not do before COVID. And we had an awesome church before COVID. And I think we have an awesome church today with new members, new activities, and new ministries. So again, my sense, I'm optimistic by nature, but I see all good things happening for St. Michael. And really, I don't see any huge issues, controversies, crises facing us. However, that's my view. We're here today to get your feedback with regard to what you think we could do better. Because though we're good, we know on this earth we'll never be perfect. So how do we become more perfect, as a church family, and a congregation? So I'll throw it open, to any of your comments, because you are the agenda. Annette. And I'm sorry, by the way, we are also on live stream, so even though those people can't Q&A us, they'll at least be hearing our questions. So Annette Bowers, I'll repeat your questions so they can hear, but yes.
Annette Bowers. No controversy, no crisis. But I really wonder when we're going to move to one service on Sunday, especially given the streaming situation. And I'll be honest with you, I'm speaking for the Bell Choir people here today. There's a very low attendance. And I just think it would make us a stronger church if we were one service. And I know you guys have talked about it. I just wonder when it's going to happen.
Yeah, so for the folks on live stream, the question from Annette was, when will we go to one service? Because, of course, everybody's aware we have an 8 o'clock and we have a 10 o'clock. And a while ago, we made a move to discontinue the 8 o'clock service, and that precipitated a lot of controversy, obviously by the 8 o'clock attendees, of which I think today I heard there were 34. Now, again, we had Bell Choir, so that was, so today was a high, my point was that today was a high watermark at 34. Usually there are 18 to 20 people as a rule. As an aside, okay, so not to answer the question yet, but since you mentioned live stream, I think another extremely positive aspect of life at St. Michael is that with COVID and post-COVID, we have the live stream option. And I was unaware until recently when Michael Rittler told me that in any given week, we have 50 to 60 people who participate in our worship service via live stream. Think about that. We had a reasonably good crowd today at 10 o'clock, reasonably good crowd at 8 o'clock. Add 50 or 60 congregants to that number, and we're right back where we were before COVID. And again, it's not just about numbers, but it's about numbers. And I think that it's, to some degree, starts to answer your question, Annette, that we still have people that, for various reasons, really value that 8 o'clock service. And since Pastor David and Ryan are going to be here anyway, until the attendance dwindles to the point where those people don't, want to attend because it's too small, I think we'll continue to have it. Now, I would say that half the reason I come to church, honestly, is for the fellowship. And, when the numbers get really small, there's that much less opportunity for fellowship. So I would encourage, 8 o'clockers to attend the larger service. And when we have 9:30 service, I think that sort of approximates, Annette, where you're going, in that, that makes for a fuller church family. But we still have people that are very committed to that, 8 o'clock service.
The only comment I would make to that is, I think, at least what I heard, I think your numbers today reflect the fact that the Bell Choir was here.
Yep.
I think some consideration should be given to the fact that perhaps Bell Choir doesn't need to play at both services, or things like that at both services, where people are here for hours on end and the crowd is very small.
Yeah.
It's almost minuscule. And, I don't know what the reasoning behind that is, but I just kind of think it's not fair.
I've got another thought, but Hank, did you have a comment? Would you?
Well, I think I think your comment is fair, and I think what you're saying is fair, but I want to be clear about something you said. I'm a member of council. There is currently no discussion, zero, about discontinuing the 8 o'clock service. So that is, what you said was, I just want to correct that. Whether we evaluate what happens at the 8 o'clock service, whether Bell Choir, those are things we can talk about, but there is no current discussion that I'm aware of around discontinuing that service.
Okay, I stand corrected.
So I just want to clarify.
I think really
Yeah, I think, since I teach Sunday school now, I've been, I'll say forced to go at 8 o'clock because I'm busy during 10 o'clock. So I go to 8 o'clock routinely. And no surprise, it's very nice for a change, and it is a change to have bell choir or other special events at the 8 o'clock service, but it's a fairly rare occurrence. Now, maybe, does it need to be more rare? I mean, that's, maybe a... Yeah, no, I mean, again, it makes sense if you're going to be here at 8 to be here at 10, when that's going to be the case. So I guess, that we can talk to Ryan and talk to the Bell folks and decide what's enough and what's too much. And I don't ring, Karen does, but yeah, I get your point. She's here at 7 o'clock, and then she's here for the 8, and then she's here for the 10, and then she's counting, and then she's here for a building and property meeting. So she'll leave here about 3 o'clock today. And that's a lot, and that's too much. So yeah, I think, in that we've got to, we can't have bells or choir at 8 o'clock too often and expect them to be here for the most of the day. Would agree. Yeah, Christy. Yeah, again, that was Christy Wampler, who was saying that not only does she enjoy the bell opportunity, but clearly so do the 8 o'clock worshipers. But it's difficult. And so I think, in that we want to keep the bell people happy because, we've had, for all sorts of reasons, people dropping out or people absent. And, we're getting down, from what I understand, to a sort of almost minimal number. So whatever keeps the bell people happy and engaged, I think we need to consider that. So again, I would talk amongst yourself and talk to Ryan and tell him, look, here's what we are willing and happy to do. And I think, Ryan will need to accommodate that or risk losing people.
And so my last thought is, I personally, not speaking for Wes, I'm disappointed that we're not considering joining into one service, but I just would like that. I just want to say that, and that's it.
Yeah.
Move on to something else. I'm done.
Yeah. Rick Wetzel.
Yeah, just to follow up on it, what Annette is saying, perhaps the thing to do, if there's enough people who are feeling this way, first of all, let Ryan know, because Sheila and I are members of the Worship and Music Committee. We haven't really talked about this issue for a while, but if there's enough concern within your group, we definitely would be interested in that. However, I think that also should be, brought to council first. The ideal way this would work would be council would charge music and worship with taking a look at this again, and then making an educated decision based on everybody's feelings on the issue. That's all. To be honest, I didn't think there was much of a groundswell of support to consolidate the services again. But if there's some folks who are feeling like, hey, that's something we need to revisit, over this time of year into the summer is a good time for worship and music to think about that, because we have to coordinate not only with the music people, but also with Christian education for the Sunday school. So any changes you make to the service times, worship times, impact those folks as well. But if there's some support to look at that again, I think it's certainly something we could do. We just ask that council perhaps charge music and worship with doing that.
Yeah, so for the live stream folks, Rick Wetzel was, as recent member of council and an active member of Worship and Music, is saying Worship and Music needs to, and that, consider not only the events for 8 o'clock and 10 o'clock, but the idea of 8 o'clock and 10 o'clock. And again, we've been there, done that, tried it, and went back. So again, we understand where the potholes are in that road. Is it worth traveling down that road again? So again, something we want to talk about. So thank you, Annette. that's exactly the kind of, feedback we need to hear at something like this at a time which lets us work on it, because it's not that far into the future that we're going to go to a 9:30 service anyway through the summer and into the early fall. So lets us prepare for September. Ed Schultz?
I don't know if it's my imagination or not, but during the service, it seems like the hymns are more classic hymns, and I'm sure I'm enjoying that. So I didn't know if that was a conscious decision by somebody, but I sure am enjoying that. So
Yeah, thank you.
my imagination.
No, thank you, Ed. Ed Schultz. And Ed was commenting that he's enjoyed the more traditional, or dare I say popular, hymns that we've been singing. And reflecting on that back a couple of years, maybe to when Ryan started, as you can remember back, we had some more exotic hymns. And usually there was one that people might recognize and two that you'd never heard before. And that feedback came back through worship and music to Ryan. And you'll notice today, which wasn't unusual, all three hymns were in the top 40 hits, right? Yeah, and I've also, and Rick, to worship and music, I've also heard that from other people. So, you can never please everybody. When we had three hymns that nobody had ever heard before and couldn't sing, and particularly at 8 o'clock when there was very few people to sing anyway, you couldn't carry that tune. We've sort of gone, the pendulum's sort of gone arguably the other way, which personally I like, but I've heard feedback from others that, yes, it'd be nice to sing some new hymns from time to time, so maybe one out of three. So, Rick, too hot, it's like the Three Little Bears, right? Too hot, too cold. What's just the right porridge? Appreciate the comment, Ed, but I've heard comments from others too that, let's try something a little bit different too. So, thank you. Others? Yes. Lou Ross.
Here's my question is that I really miss having hymnals in the church, and I have. And I just wonder if there's any way that we can approach that again, anyway, in any way, or if there's some reason that we're not getting them, other than a financial issue.
Yeah, so that was Lou Ross, and Lou was saying that she misses the hymnals, in the church pews. Arguably to a Bible here and there. That might be nice. And so we used to have that, and quite honestly, I think I have most of those old hymnals at my house, for I play piano, so I've been borrowing those. But I would imagine we still have those someplace. I don't know what we would have done with them, but we used to have the green hymnal, and then we also had the blue hymnal with newer hymns in them. So I don't know where those went. Well, sorry?
The ones that have been in use now for 5 years or whatever, a long time.
The red ones are the newest. Okay, so we had green and blue and then red. And and most of the traditional hymns are in the green one. But Debbie, did you know something? Or Karen had her hand up too. Where are they? Okay. Okay. Yeah. So I'm not sure if they're serving a great purpose in the choir room that wouldn't be served better in the pews. So I think we should probably move some or most or all of them, Lou, into here, so for people that wanted to use those. Additionally, we used to, in Lutheran churches, have the hymn numbers up on the wall, so you're not flipping through to try to figure out where is this hymn coming from. Of course, in part, we put them in the bulletin to make it easy, but for those that miss it, if we've got them, how hard is it to put them back? Maybe, or again, put the numbers up on the board, and that, to me, that makes sense. Karen, did you have a... Yeah, well, this is, again, so that's what Worship and Music Committee does, coordinates these things, and, that's very manageable, I would think, as far as if Ryan's going to pick a traditional hymn, whether it was in green or red, it's pick the red and let people know and post it, and for those that want to use the bulletin, great. If you want to go to the hymnal itself, it's in your pew. Yes, Sheila.
I believe all the hymns from the green hymnal, I believe, are also in red, as well as additional hymns and additional worship settings. However, to your point about Ryan picking music sometimes that doesn't quite match that, that applies to the worship setting, music settings as well. The green hymnals that were in the pews were taken out because of COVID initially.
Yes.
And just never came back. We were talking about how do we disperse with them because they're not the current hymnal. We were talking about possibly offering them to members of the congregation if they had paid for them as a memorial on behalf of someone, or if they just wanted one for their person to use at home. But I don't believe the intention was to return them to the pews because they're not the current hymnal. As far as the current hymnal goes, I believe the cost is prohibitive to have one, to have that red one filling the pews, especially now that we've gone to a printed bulletin where he's printing the hymns anyway. So that's all I can add to that, but it kind of explains where we are.
Yeah, so Sheila was saying that most of what's in the green, the old version, is in the red. We've got some reds. We probably can't put a red hymnal in every pew for every person, but I would argue probably every pew and every person doesn't necessarily need one. But for the ones we've got, easily enough to move them in. But we would have to coordinate with Ryan, that if he's picking a hymn, it's ideal if he could pick it out of the red for those that want to use that. So, thank you, Sheila. Was there another hand up? Karen Liska?
Yeah, I was on council as we approached COVID, and at that time, there was a discussion about buying the latest printing of the hymnal, which in my recollection, was going to be the last time they printed one. I don't know if that's the case or not, but I think that was, my understanding was that the last time they were going to print it, and we were going to purchase it, and I believe that we were going to use memorial funds to purchase them for the church. And I just think when the hymnals did get taken out for COVID, then we started printing the songs in the bulletin. I mean, if we had hymnals, then we would use less paper printing bulletins. We spend a lot printing our bulletins and using paper. So I would be in favor if we could swing to bring back hymnals.
Okay, well, and Karen was saying that this did go back to COVID. There was a conversation about a reprinting or the last printing and additional purchases. And it does take a lot more bulletin to print the hymns. But again, I think if we took a poll, we'd have half the people wanting it in the bulletin and half the people wanting hymnals. So I don't think this is an or, it's probably an and. And it may not be a red, hymnal at every seat in the here, but one or two in each of the pews for those that want it coordinated with Ryan would, to me, make good sense. So again, Rick and Sheila, if, as Annette said, not a crisis, not a huge controversy, but an opportunity maybe, just to further optimize things for people that like the hymnal. Yes?
I don't know if this is said and I got here late, but I've talked to Ryan about this several times, and a lot of the hymns that he's using now don't even come out of the red hymnal. They come out of the supplement to the red. And that red hymnal is kind of sort of out of print already. I mean, we're really late in getting this. They were putting that in using other churches 15 years ago.
Yeah. So Janet, Janet Webb was saying that there may be many, some, all of the hymns Ryan picks may not even be in the red hymnal, which we have. So, I think it's, I'm not sure where Ryan gets them. That might be the next. Yeah. Okay, well, so let's, I guess, again, Rick, Sheila, worship and music, let's look into that topic. Again, if they're all from the supplement, we're not talking about buying 1,000 supplements. We're talking about buying 24. So I can't imagine that would be cost prohibitive, not for every seat in every pew, but every row of every, bunch of pews might make some sense. So let's look into that. Yes, Sue.
I don't know whether it's the system itself or that often people don't speak directly into the mic, whether, maybe in the bulletin, it could say something like, remember if you're speaking, you have to almost get right up against it. And especially like in the fellowship hall, when we have a speaker, it seems that, if the speaker is just holding it down here, it's not doing anything, that they have to keep being reminded to, hold it closer to their mouth.
Yeah, so Sue Fisher was saying that sometimes our audiovisual support is not adequate, and reference particularly the fellowship hall. But it's interesting, a couple weeks ago when we had a guest singer, if you were here, you might remember that. I think it was even at the 8 o'clock service, 8 o'clock and I think 10 o'clock. Andrew, or maybe it was Michael in that case, turned the volume way down because she really projected. So she was singing from here, and at full attenuation, it would have blown your ears off. So they turned it way down, never turned it back up. So people that were at the lectern that followed her, I was here, I was sitting in the third row, you couldn't hear them. There's an aspect of this technology that, is easily fixable. Just dial it up, dial it down. But, there may be, old technology, particularly in fellowship hall, that needs to be updated. So we don't want to have, big programs, and particularly with other groups coming in using our facility and programs, without adequate technology support. And, Dan Fulmer and Michael and a couple others, but maybe that's actually the couple, deal with that. So, we can confirm, Dan, whether or not we, in fact, it's an attenuation issue or whether it's just old microphones. Yeah, if you.
The concern about the microphones is a fair one, and we've heard it many times over the years, particularly in the fellowship hall. The kind of microphone this is called a condenser mic, and it's designed to pick up sounds when the speaker isn't right in front of the microphone. Similar to the microphones that you may or may not notice hanging above the choir. It can actually pick up the choir from that distance. The microphones like the one Ryan was using this morning to sing and the ones in the fellowship hall are called condenser mics. If you see a singer, a performer on television, they have the microphone almost right at their mouth to sing. Many people are nervous holding a microphone, and as they get more nervous, they tend to move it down. And that's why you can't hear people in the fellowship hall speaking. And anytime I'm there, I try to motion to them to bring the microphone up to their mouth. It's just the way the microphones are designed. Because if they weren't, when you had a number of people singing, all of the microphones would be picking everybody up, which you don't want them to do. So the microphones in the fellowship hall and some of the ones in the sanctuary are different by design. The downside is if a person isn't comfortable holding a microphone, they're not going to hold it close enough to their mouth and you won't hear it. And this one is usually just a volume issue. It's the latest and greatest technology. But we'll keep an eye on it. I don't mean to dismiss it. I'm just providing a little background.
And as Dan said, in addition to background, a little bit of, I'll say, training or reminding of speakers, including, members of the congregation who are presenting in fellowship hall to, hold the microphone up close. But we will have more groups using our fellowship hall in the future. And so it is a good reminder, Sue, that, we need to make sure that the message that they deliver is the message that people can receive. So thank you, Sue. Any other questions, comments? Rick? Okay, Rick Haneke?
Yeah, I just want to cheerlead for St. Michael just for a few minutes. When I'm sitting up here at the choir every Sunday and first off seeing that whole row of pews or front piece filled up with those kids, I mean, that's just amazing to see how many kids are here compared to a year ago. Also, I look out in the congregation, I see all your faces, but I also see all the new faces that are here that we haven't seen or that we didn't see a number of years ago. So I think we're doing a lot of good things and a lot of right things here at St. Michael. I appreciate everybody's input, everybody's help, everybody's service to the church, service to our community through social ministry, and I just wanted to end this with that because I think we're doing fantastic work and we just need to continue doing it, so good job.
And again, just to echo what Rick said, as you look around this room, with no disrespect to the people that aren't here, maybe on live stream, this is sort of the who's who of St. Michael. It's typical that 20% of the people, drive 80% of the activity at any church. And for the people here that show up and the people that aren't here but show up for St. Michael, that's what Rick, makes the difference. It's great to see new people not only joining as members, but even coming as visitors. And we want to try to figure out a way to further engage them, to get them more involved. Because as I confessed before, half of the reason I come here is for the fellowship. The other half's the worship. And so, yeah, Annette, the more people here, the more that I know, the more that I'm involved, the more likely I am to come back. So, that's a great opportunity for us to welcome and involve the newcomers as we see them, from as little as saying hello to bringing cookies via the Cookie Patrol, and thanks to Janet and others for that, to trying to engage them and enroll them in our activities and our committees. So, yeah, that is the future of St. Michael, sitting around the rail. Awesome foundation, and you guys built the foundation here. But the next floor it will be built in the future. So thank you, Rick, for that. Hank?
I just wanted to take this opportunity to answer a question that I was asked last week, and it was about the youth director position. And someone asked me, where's that in our budget? And I just wanted to share with you that it is in our budget, and you'll find it as the very last line under staff compensation. It says Shared Family Youth Church of the Advent. Council had a meeting, and not all of you meet our council minutes, which are available, but we discussed how do we fill this position, and we began advertising for a position, I believe, in March. This position is a 5-hour-a-week position. It pays $45 an hour, which by the way, that's the going rate for teachers who do coaching work. And we decided it was a fair compensation for this type of work at St. Michael. If you do the math on it, 5 hours a week at 45, working 39 weeks a year, because we don't see the position working over the summer, it's about a $10,000 expenditure. So it's in our budget for $5,000 because we were sharing with Church of the Advent. We subsequently were informed that Church of the Advent doesn't have any youth and we might have to bear this on our own. That's okay. We have some special funds set aside for new ministry initiatives, which we can tap for the $5,000 that we're short. So I just want to clarify for everybody, we have the funds, and congratulations to Mario. We're glad to have him filling that position. Thank you.
Yeah, it was an awesome blessing to find Mario in our midst. As Hank mentioned, isn't it the way things usually are, right? You look at at the distance, and then you stumble over something right in front of you. We had 15 applicants for the position, when far and away the best applicant we had was sitting in the office processing applications, who said to Steve Lacombe, I think I could be good at this. And I'm sure he will be. So, again, it just speaks to the fact that, we talk about time, talents, and treasures. Most of everything we need is, right within the walls of this church family. We just want to make sure we are clever enough and aware enough to tap into it when we have a need. And when this church has had a need, the congregation has always stepped up to fill that need. Again, whether it was financial, whether it was through your talent or the time that was required. So, yeah, thank you, Hank. Thank you, Mario. Welcome again. Anything else? Thank you, Sue. Just to repeat what I said before, the more involved I get, which I think is true of most people, the more I enjoy it. The more I have ownership, the more I'm fulfilled, the more there's meaning, to it beyond just coming here for an hour on Sunday. So I don't think that's just me. I think I speak for the council members, the committee chairs, who often do even more work than council members, and the committee members themselves, as well as the volunteers, that aren't formally part of committees. Again, that's the 20% that does 80% of the ministry, at this church. So, it's a huge blessing. So thank you. Beyond council, we could not do that, without the help of many. So thank you, Sue. And thank you all. So, we try to do these, and I think I've been pretty disciplined about doing these town halls every quarter. And even of the 3 or 4 we've done in the past year or so, I think we've come to hear the issues and at least attempt, and in many cases resolve, those issues that come up. So, this is as good a place as we will make it. There are no limitations on how awesome St. Michael can be other than those guardrails we put on it ourselves. So, that's why we do these town halls, to hear from you, to discuss, to debate things like 8 o'clock service, like the music program, like utilization of our building, and things of that nature. So, in closing, we don't need to wait for a town hall. So thank you, Sue. We know all our council members, we're all part of that same family, and you do come up to us individually as issues arise and share them with it, and we try to address it. So again, we'll continue to work for you. We'll do a better job as you continue to work with us and let us know what you like. That's great. But what you don't like, or could like if we did it a little bit differently. Because again, there's nothing, almost nothing I think we can't do differently if we choose. We just need to know what that looks like. So thank you all again. Appreciate it. It's almost noon, so have a good rest of your day, and we'll look forward to talking to you again soon. Thank you.